was the worst way you've been broken up with. After 3 years, lots of plans, and living together for 2, my ex told me that he would like to begin transitioning into a woman. The part that makes this the worst breakup is not she is now living happily as a woman. It is that after telling me of her identity, I said calmly and coolly, I love you, I respect you, and I wish you the best in becoming who you are. I cannot continue to be in a relationship with you as I am not attracted to women. Long story short, she went ballistic. Apparently I should have known. She assumed that I was bisexual. She called me transphobic, threw things, called me every derogatory name she could think of before leaving. She emailed me for years, calling me out for being crappy for not wanting to continue a relationship with her. She is completely unwilling to understand that just like her, my sexual identification and orientation is sort of set in stone. It is how I was born. Basically, she made me feel like a complete a-hole and told our friends how much of an a-hole I was because as a heterosexual woman, I am not interested in a lesbian relationship. How's that one saying go? It really does sound like the expression of she wants her cake and then wants your cake too. I probably butchered that, but yeah, that's a very unfair situation to be in. Story 2. Just abandoned. Without any words, without any explanation. No warning, no answers. One day, I'm excitedly planning a future with my husband. The next day, he's just gone. Cut all contact. In my opinion, it just doesn't get much worse than that. Story 3. I was 21, came home from work, and everything was gone. She left a milk crate, the tiny TV, a trash can, and the box spring to the mattress. I didn't actually know that she left me, so I called the cops and told them that someone stole everything, including my girlfriend. I was pretty hysterical, but the 911 operator was able to calm me down and inform me that my girlfriend most likely left me. Jeez, talk about just going straight to the point. The operator was like, yeah, man, we've got this call many times. You got broken up with. That's just how it is. They probably get those phone calls just every day. Story 4. I met my absolute soulmate of a girlfriend, Peyton, and fell madly in love with her. We would see each other every day and spend hours via Skype and the phone just talking, never running out of topics. This went on for about 8 months until one cold day in January. I was getting ready for a normal day of college and I received a call from her mother that Peyton was involved in a serious car crash and was being airlifted to the hospital. I lived an hour away, and that day I made it in 38 minutes to find my best friend and loved sitting in a upper cast. She suffered brain bleeding, broken collarbone, 3 ribs, entire right arm, wrist, hand, shoulder, and a punctured lung. But without a beat, she smiled when I came in with her favorite flowers and candy. The problem? Most of her memory was gone of our interactions and didn't know who I was. I have tried for the past 2 years to get her back, and it's not really working. Some memories she remembers, but not much overall. She was taken from me, and that to me has been the biggest heartbreak in my life. If you're reading this, Peyton, I will always love you. Story 5. I took her to a club. She left with a friend of a friend. Years later, we decided to give it another go. Lived together the whole 9 yards. Eventually, we ended up engaged, and she said she didn't want to do anything sexually till we were married. I was fine with that, until she cheated on me with some random dude from Yahoo chat. I called her up and said, you have a half hour to get your crap and get out. I haven't spoken to her since, and that was in 2004. I am now happily married to someone else, just celebrated my 10-year anniversary. Story 6. I was in 11th grade. I had just got my tonsils out. That hurt by itself, but the medicine they gave me made me throw up, and that made my mouth hurt even worse. So, my awesome grandma, who was taking me home from the hospital, sees I'm having one of the worst days of my life, and takes me to get an ice-cold smoothie to help my mouth. I get my smoothie and take the first drink. So good. And then I get a text. It was my awesome girlfriend, but this wasn't an awesome text. She told me, over text, that she was leaving me for this other guy and that she never wants to talk to me again. So out of the blue, or maybe I'm just oblivious. Either way, I couldn't truly enjoy my smoothie and my bad day got worse. Bonus. A week later, she sent me a picture of them having sex together. I punched a hole in my wall. Alright, did this man cheat on her or something? Why is she doing all that? It's one thing to say never talk to me again, but then just to send him a picture? What? Story 7. I got suspicious when she started to get really distant around me. When she broke up with me, I decided to investigate because she told me her Facebook password 2 years earlier when she said she had nothing to hide from me. Her phone was clean because all the lovey-dovey stuff and meetup plans were on Facebook Messenger over the past 3 months. I told a shared friend what I found, and the shared friend, who already knew about it, informed the recent ex of my findings. She couldn't believe that I remembered the password from a conversation that long ago and was insistent that I maliciously hacked into Facebook servers using some coding voodoo because I am a programmer. I informed her other boyfriend that I existed and he dumped her immediately and shared her habit on social media. Story 8. My sister got broken up with in her birthday card. Yeah, he gave her a birthday card in which he writes, "I want to break up." It happened in middle school. Later that day, our brother and I pushed the guy around a bit. Story 9. Mutually, easily, without an argument or any real reason to be angry at one another, simply because we knew that during the course of our relationship, we had grown into different people with different goals, opinions, and morals that didn't line up anymore. This just happened several months ago. We dated for almost 4 years all through high school, started going to the same community college, talking about finding our own place once our work lives picked up a little bit more. But we both knew how much we had changed during the years we were together. She definitely changed more than I did, and I believe she had a really strong desire to see what else was out there. There were some trust issues I had with her after catching her in some lies. She didn't support me in my career path and really discarded how I felt about certain things in the relationship. But regardless, we both worked really hard to try and salvage things and get back on the same track. When the day came that we broke up, we both knew it was what was best. We simply agreed it was better that we go our own ways, pursue our own goals, and make ourselves happy. We both cried a little, hugged, and said goodbye. No arguments, no reason to be angry, no resentment, no regrets. And for me, that's what makes it so effing difficult. I absolutely love the hell out of this girl and would still do anything for her as a friend if she seriously needed me. But sometimes I wish I had a reason to be mad at her or something to blame it on. We tried staying friends for the first few months, but I realized pretty quickly that was going to be too difficult for me and wouldn't allow me to move on the way I needed to. So we cut off all ties with each other, and now what was easily a huge part of my life, my closest friend, and the person that I loved unconditionally is gone. The confliction I feel between being happy that I can be myself and pursue my goals and feeling empty due to cutting out a huge part of my life is where I'm having a hard time healing. I suppose times will heal things though. I recently found out through a mutual friend that she's seeing someone now. I found a passion in backpacking and adventuring and just recently took a 3-day trip into Yosemite a couple weeks ago to get away for a little bit. I have a ton of pictures I thought about posting, but I'm pretty sure this post is going to be buried. And not sure anyone would see the pictures anyways. Story 10. I was 15. I lived in MA and my dreams was to go to Disney World at the time. My boyfriend was going to Florida with his family for a week and his family invited me to go with. It was the most magical time. In my head, everything was going so perfect. I got to go to my dream place with my first love. I fell in love with him so fast and so hard. His family loved me. My family loved him. It seemed so right. Then the day we got back from this amazing vacation, he broke up with me through email. I asked him why and never got a response back. Ever. He could have at least waited a week after coming back. Way to break a young girl's heart. But here is a happy ending to the story. Now I'm happily married and live in Orlando. I can go to Disney World with the hubby anytime I want. Story 11. We had been dating for 2.5 years. I bought a plane ticket to Seattle for him. We lived in New York, so he could go visit his family because he hadn't seen them in a while. When he left, a week later, he said he was going to stay another 2 weeks because his grandma wasn't doing well. 2 weeks turned into a phone call while I was at work, taking care of a special needs girl, saying he knocked a chick up and is not coming back. Story 12. This was Christmas 2014. It was a long distance relationship. She drove out to see me. It was December 23rd and I was flying back to Virginia to visit family. I left VA the year before, so she was with me for the week. She took me to the airport and drove home. When we got out of the car, I told her I loved her and she said it back. We kissed, hugged, smashed, then I left. I land in Virginia and I get a text from her saying it's over because my dad makes a lot of money and we just grew up in 2 different worlds. Fast forward to Christmas 2015, I'm with a girl who lives like 5 miles away from where I live. I just had a gut feeling things were going to end while I was in VA for the holidays. The day after Christmas, she breaks up with me. I've learned one lesson from this. Don't go to Virginia for Christmas. Story 13. He cheated on me with another guy, and being as blinded by love as I was, I told him I'd take him back. Apparently, people that had seen them together talked, and he went ahead and blamed it all on me. He made sure to make me look like an a-hole when in fact I was the only one on his side. After all of this, he said she said crap. I finally told him, if you love me, let's make this work. His response, you're so immature. I was so hurt. What hurt me to my core was that a week before crap went down, he had come to talk to my dad to ask for my hand in marriage. 2 weeks after the you're so immature conversation, I found out he had been engaged the entire time he was dating me. His fiance just happened to live in Colorado. Less than a year later, they got married. It took me effing years to move on. Story 14. Dating a girl for about a half a year. She moves out of town, keeps asking me to come live with her because I'm not in a good situation where I currently live. After one really bad weekend of depression-fueled painkiller use, she drives down and, along with some friends, convinces me to move in with her. I pack all my stuff that day and go to her place for a week to find a job, on the condition that I go back for 2 weeks to finish up my job and get paperwork and stuff in order. Roommate is pissed as hell, makes me leave my dog to him. I get there, and the whole week she's a completely different person, unaffectionate, rude, meaner than I have ever seen her. I remember quietly crying the last night I was there, not knowing what I was going to do. She then tells me that I can't leave any of my belongings with her because her family will be visiting and her dad still pays for her apartment. So I have to take it all back to my hometown with me for 2 weeks till she breaks it to her family. So I drag all my stuff back to my hometown and crash my coworker for what's supposed to be 2 weeks. At the end of the first week, she calls and says I can't move in with her anymore because her dad will stop funding the apartment. Fine, whatever. I'm mad, but it's not her fault. So I decide I'll look for a place near her that's affordable. I end up stuck in my hometown for over a month trying to find a place and a job near her. All the while, she's blowing off all communication with me. One night, I end up getting drunk and she calls me, dumps me 2 minutes into the conversation. So now I'm homeless. The co-worker I'm staying with is moving at the end of the month and broke and alone. 8 months later, I'm living with my aunt 4 hours from my hometown, and I just managed to get a job. I've never felt more lost or been hurt by anyone, including the relationship I was cheated on in. Story 15. I dated a girl for over a year, moved away from my family to get a crappy job in a factory and support her through school. After 3 years, I asked her to marry me and she said yes. We made plans to elope within a few months. 2 days later, she broke up with me and said that she was lesbian and had known since she was in middle school. I ran out of our apartment, but luckily didn't have a wallet, keys, or even a belt. I would have unalived myself. I gave up everything I had for her. Luckily, I walked over to my buddy's house a few blocks away and we drank together and he talked me down. I'm better now. The story does have a happy ending though. I spent a few weeks living somewhere else, and when I came back to move out, as I was leaving with the second to last load of stuff to put in my car, she pooped her pants. I repeat, she did it in her pants. There's nothing she could have done that would have made me feel better. Jesus Christ, you guys. She did it in her pants. What was the point of trying to date you? Or I guess being in a relationship with you if she knew she was lesbian since middle school? I don't understand why people do that. Story 16. By not telling me at all. We had been together for 3 to 4 weeks, and one day I was just coming home from work and I saw her walking with another dude. I confronted her in front of him and the conversation went something like this. Me. Hey. Her name. Who's this? Her. Oh, hey, this is his name. My boyfriend. Me. I haven't... We been in a relationship for like months now? Her. I guess. But we clearly broke up yesterday evening. Me. Visible confusion. We didn't break up that evening. We just had a minor squabble about how we should spend more time together. I was working 12s that week. We even kissed when I was leaving her place and she told me, I love you. I was so astounded I couldn't be mad. I forgot about her in a few weeks and moved on with my life. Story 17. We've been together for 3 years. She borrowed several $100s from me a week before, knowing the whole time that she was going to do this. When she broke up with me, all she did was tell me that she didn't love me anymore. No discussion, no explanation, nothing. She then kept the breakup secret, moved to another city, mooched off of my friends, trashed their apartment, and nearly killed their dog. Story 18. I never loved you, I don't love you, and I will never. You're not worth 10 seconds of my time. This was after a year of telling me I was number one, that you loved me and would always love me, that I was the one person he wanted to talk to every single day. He had never felt this way about anyone before. He'd take a bullet for me. His heart would beat so fast and hands would sweat when he was with me because he was so nervous. He promised forever, etc. He swore on his mother's life. He swore to God, etc. Then when we slept together, he gave me genital herpes and ghosted me. He was my second partner I've ever had, and I used condoms with first. Anyway, when I cried and begged for an explanation, that was the response. I spent the next year literally crying every single day, multiple times a day. Story 19. Was with her for just a shy of 2 years. Holidays, festivals, discussions of marriage, the whole lot. Claimed she lived at home with her mom, who had terminal cancer, and as a result, her mom didn't want to bring anyone new into her life as the pain of knowing she would leave them was too much. Therefore, we spent all our time at mine, and I never met her family or mom. Received a message from a guy one night asking how I knew her. I explained. Turns out her mom was fine. She had been engaged to this guy and living with him the entire time. They were due to get married in a fortnight. Still blows my mind that she managed to play us both so well the entire time. So technically, I guess he kind of ended it by revealing the truth. I just wished him the best of luck and cut all ties immediately. Didn't give her the satisfaction letting her know she had hurt me. Story 20. High school. I'm dating a guy who is out of high school. I worked at a Dairy Queen. A girl from high school comes through the drive-thru. As I'm handing her her order, I see that the very distinct ring I gave my boyfriend is on her finger. I have to admit, it took me a minute because I was confused about how she could have this ring. I finally snapped too and asked her, "Did Bob give you that ring?" She said yes, and how did I know? Because I gave it to him. He's my boyfriend. She immediately took it off, gave it to me, and left. A few minutes later, my boyfriend comes flying in the door and starts yelling at me for getting him in trouble. Yeah, I know how to pick him. As he continues to yell at me, I'm just staring at him with all the anger that's in me. A friend of his, Mike, happened to be sitting in the dining room, and Mike comes up to the counter and whispers something to Bob. They both go outside. Bob comes back in and sheepishly says, "Mike said if I didn't apologize to you, he'd beat my butt." I have to admit, having Bob's friend, Mike, who I barely knew, stand up for me was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And yes, Mike and I started dating. He was a really nice guy. Story 21. By making me do the breakup for him. He slowly withdrew emotionally and started to become increasingly irritable and inconsiderate. If I brought up any of these issues, he would act insulted at how I could think of him or imply maybe it was my fault for not being considerate enough of him and what he was going through. It was so slow and incremental. It took me a long time to figure out we weren't going through a rough patch, or he wasn't having a hard time that I needed to support him through. With my last remaining crumb of energy and self-esteem, I did what he wanted all along and did the breaking up for him. I broke my own heart. He screamed and insulted me, stole a bunch of my stuff, and later I found out he gave me the kind of HPV that gives you cancer, which I did get, but was treated. Story 22. Started by showing up while I was in the hospital and saying they would give me a ride home, so my foster mom went home. Then stormed out after sitting with me for hours and telling my doctor I didn't need pain meds. Why did he storm off? My exam was too sexual for him. He couldn't handle that my doctor was a man, but also laughed at the idea of a female doctor. Came back 2 hours later after I finally cracked and asked for meds. Right as the doctor came in with the meds, yelled at me for being weak and putting poisons in my body. Stormed back out. Never came back, and the next day texted me to say that my health was too stressful for him. Then showed up at my house while I was at a doctor's appointment. He was there for me scheduling and accused me of cheating on him because I wasn't home. He also cheated on me, probably a lot, and assaulted me, which led to some of my health problems I was dealing with that day. Overall, I hope you crashed a piece of poo-poo motorcycle you plan on using to take me home. Story 23. Traveled 5 hours by train to see me only to get my house, say she doesn't love me, and that she wants to break up. She leaves, I cry for about 15 minutes, then call my best friend and ask if he can come over with some beers so I'm not home alone all weekend. I hear her in the background asking him something. Yep, she traveled 5 hours to break up with me so she could F my best friend without feeling guilty about it. I no longer talk to him. Story 24. Dropped around to my place hours later than she said she was going to on a Saturday, which was a common theme with her. Sensing I was annoyed despite me trying to deny it, she hits me with, "No, I think you're upset because you know I can't be your partner anymore." Okay, that's news to me, but okay. So we talk about it for the rest of the afternoon. It's now Saturday night, we hang out, she stays the night, she initiates sex, we fall asleep, she hangs around on Sunday all day. It's now Sunday night. No sex, but we sleep together. I wake up on Monday, leave her in my house, and go to work. I get through work, go home, and she's still there. I'm confused as F at this point and tell her kindly that I might need a bit of alone time to process things, and she gets offended. Weirdest and saddest weekend of my life. Story 25. I was sick in bed. He said he was coming over to drop off some of my stuff I left at his house on his lunch break. He comes in, wakes me up, and says he is dumping me. I'm naked, blind, no contacts, and confused. I ask him if we can talk about it, and he replies, "No, I'm on my lunch break. I have to get back to work." Leaves his key and leaves. Later that evening, I am taken to the hospital and am diagnosed with appendicitis and scheduled for appendectomy. Oh yeah, he accused me of faking being sick. He's an a-hole though. I lucked out big time. Story 26. So, I used to date this chick in high school. Fiona. Great girl. Kind. Really pretty. I loved her to bits. Anyways, final day of school during my graduation ceremony, she comes up to me and straight up dumps me in front of my parents while they're taking pictures of us. She said I was too predictable or something, as if that's a bad thing. She F's off and leaves me hanging, and next thing I know, she's up on the band stage making out with a singer, who looks suspiciously a lot like Matt Damon, and they start singing a song about me and how I don't know things like I'm effing Jon Snow.